You have questions, I have a few answers. But I just went on a 7-minute rant thinking I was recording my audio and I had to retake this entire thing, so I'm going to make this a lot shorter. My green screen is behind me. I have a chroma key running and I was just experimenting with it and I'm too lazy to turn it off. More questions at the end of the video. Let's actually quickly cover what I literally am actually a little furious about, low-key. My baby's over there watching her Prince of Egypt show, so we're just going to go with that. Let's turn on the window capture, because we're first covering a couple of things. Just to catch up, Kiriko is now in competitive. Not really new, since that was yesterday's, and I took an off day on Tuesday because my parents were here, so wasn't able to make a video like I normally was. And then, aside from that, the dev blog was the most recent of things, plus a Blizzard announcement from the actual server site thing, the one that tells you of problems, mentioning where there's difficulty access some in-game content and they're investigating into resolving it, but that was really about it. Other than that, they have a pinned tweet about of 25 million players in 10 days. Nothing really new on the news side. So really we can just patch on through into the two main arguments of today, which actually has to do, kind of like I'm mentioning along with Kiriko, Sword Art Online on the brain. Kiriko entering the competitive scene. Now, she is pretty strong, and I'll go over her in hero balancing. But competitive, speaking of that for right now, has been having a couple of issues, and some players have been putting out some information saying that there's kind of like a major imbalance in the competitive scene right now, where higher ranked players are being put in matches with lower ranked players, and on the obvious vice versa, and that is making the competitive integrity of the game very unfair. You have a bunch of platinums that are facing off against GMs, and obviously they won't win, so they're going to be kicked down, and it's going to be like really hard for anybody to get any value, and so on and so forth. And it's like, okay, so this is kind of weird. So with that being said, that's kind of what's on the table for the competitive thing. Now we're going to get into hero balancing and make this very quick because, again, I just screwed up a 7-minute recording prior. So I have 3 different lineups right now, and before I even get up into talking about specific hero nerfs and balance changes, I'm just dividing them up between nerfs, buffs, and tuning, which can go in the buff direction or the nerf direction, but it's not a solid buff or nerf, as it were. That's how I'm going to really rate these heroes. This is going from both a couple of speculation pieces from other players of different ranks who I've, come across on both Twitter, social media, and like Discord discussions, as well as a couple of opinions on my personal viewpoint, but at the same time, I'm only one person. So take it with a grain of salt when I talk about these things. But before I even cover all the heroes that are up here, Bastion and Torbjorn are 2 that we can quickly knock out. Bastion has been removed from quick play and competitive play, and he may make a return on the 25th when he's hopefully fixed, and as a result, he's going to see some gameplay at that point, but I'm pretty sure that he was just going to get a tuning because his ultimate was broken, so I don't really know where he was. He wasn't really a hard character to take care of. He's a little different from Overwatch 1, so I don't really see them doing any nerfs or buffs or anything like that. They just needed to fix his ultimate so he wasn't launching like 58 different zones and killing off an entire team. Like, that was just busted. And Torbjorn's just still at a quick competitive play. I was going to say quick play twice. He's out of competitive play, but he is in quick play, and as far as I know, he is a tad bit oppressive, if I recall. But he's not that bad. If anything, he might be on the tune down side, but I don't really know because I didn't play quick play as often. I've been playing competitive play more than anything. But let's move on to the rest of the heroes, because there's not really much more to cover about them. I don't really think that there's going to be much balance changing, and Torb is just, he might need a tune down, he might need a fix. I don't actually know what the problem was with him in particular. He was busted as well, and I just don't know what for. So, again, grain of salt. Everything I say, grain of salt. Just, let's move on. Okay, so starting with Diva. I think she's going to be on the tune down side, not really nerf or buff solidly. Definitely tune down. She's been pretty oppressive in my personal gameplay, and I have been seeing that she's been getting a lot of value with her buffs now that she's a lone tank. I do think that they're going to probably tune her down a tad bit because of how oppressive she is, but I could be wrong. I honestly don't see her receiving like heavy tune downs or any like major changes. She might just receive a slight change or no change at all. She might actually be right where she needs to be. She's definitely a challenge to take care of and definitely in your face, so they might need to figure out a way to even her out, is what I'm trying to basically say here. It's not really that she needs to be nerfed, just tune her back, because she's always in your face, and it seems like she gets too much value for bumping people around, which, by the way, I'll go into that in another video, but the crowd control is just kind of out of whack. More on that later. Doomfist. So, I've only been running into him whenever he's has a pocket mercy, so I don't really have an opinion as to whether or not he himself is actually broken. I do side him with the Diva spot where he's constantly in your face, so that he may receive a tune down as well. I don't see him getting a buff or a nerf because he's not being played at a lot of different levels. He's actually just being played at a few hit or miss spots, and he's very iffy to take care of. So I figure him to be one of the ones for a tune down, but not a straight up nerf. Junker Queen. When she was initially released in the beta, she was definitely broken as all heck. And now that she's in game, it seems that she kind of evened out where people figured her out very quickly and she's not gaining as much value as she once did, to the point where everybody's just promptly ignoring her. I've even heard some Overwatch pros go off as far as to say, all you need to do to beat her is just walk past her. I don't know if that's true. I have seen that she can be a little oppressive in the right hands. Do I think that she needs a touch? If anything, she might need a tune up. And this is coming from someone who's constantly getting frustrated at the crowd control abilities. Again, I'm mentioned in another video, but she's not as bad. She's really not as bad, so I'm okay with where she is, and if anything, she might just need a tune-up. Orisa definitely is going to have a nerf of some kind. She is not she is an oppressive tank in the fact that she could also get in your face, but not in a very terrible way. But she is very hard to take care of, and they may need to give her more weaknesses, because her counters, she stays alive in team fights a little too long in my... again, I have to remember that this is a 5v5. Tanks are supposed to be this way, but I think that compared to the rest of the tank lineup, it is harder to kill her, and as a result, she has a major tune-up time, or team fight time, excuse me, why did I say tune-up? Team fight time, so then she may just need to be adjusted. I think she's up for the nerf. I would go as far as to say nerf, specifically for Orisa. Does she need it? I don't know. That's to be determined. I just theorize that she's going to be. Reinhardt. So Reinhardt's not a bad pick. He's pretty balanced as far as I could tell. If anything, he might get a tune-up. But I think that he's fine where he is, so he might not be touched at all. But if I did have to give a time frame, I would say, time frame. I really need to sleep more. If I had to give an estimated guess or an educated guess on whether or not they were going to put him on for something, I would say tune-up. He's not oppressive. He's not that bad. He's got good control. If anything, he might just need to be a little bit more powerful. It's not that hard to fight him. Roadhog. Okay, this guy's definitely on a very potentially heavy tune down or a very light nerf. Somewhere in between there. It's not that he's overpowered, but the same thing applies that he has a very high team fight time, which is where tanks are supposed to be, and because he doesn't have any form of defense where he could block off damage, it kind of evens the team fight, but if he has a healer and he uses his take a breather, he's kind of untouchable, and he's very oppressive. Now, again, this might just be that it's something we just have to adapt to with one tank, and he's a little more powerful, but I think he's going to be tuned down, if anything, but I could be wrong. Maybe they won't touch him. Maybe other ones are going to be uplifted. I don't know. Let's quickly move on to Sigma. Sigma's kind of in a gray area for me, personally. I haven't seen much on him, so I don't have an opinion, but if anything, they're going to keep him where he is, but if I had to assume that they were going to nerf or buff, I'm leaning towards more of the buffing area. And it's only like a 0.1% difference between buffing and nerfing. So it's hit or miss. I don't know where to actually place him, but I would lean more towards buffs because he's a tank. Winston has been getting a lot of inherent value. This guy, oh my god. I am going to tell you right now, I think that they're going to keep him where he is because he's actually gaining a lot of value and he's not too overpowered. If anything, they may tune him down a tad, but I don't see him as a problem. I haven't seen him as a problem, and he's been wrecking me, so keep that in mind. I don't even want to go over him. I just want him removed from the game in general. Like, I think that this guy's just dumb. Like, his entire concept, now that crowd control is gone, literally gave him leeway into being overpowered in a very unique kind of way that no amount of nerfing is going to change that. I honestly hate him as fundamentally as a character, so there's really nothing I'm going to give an opinion on other than the fact that I think that he should just be entirely removed. But if I had to give an estimated guess, they're probably going to buff him just because. Lastly, Zarya. Zarya's been getting a lot of value, too. If anything, she might get a tune down. I don't really lean her... Like, a lot of heroes don't really need a solid nerf or buff. She definitely does need a tuning. I think she is a little too oppressive and gives a little too much value in team fights. She is a lone tank, so that's kind of the point. Because she was an off tank and she never carried fights in the first game, so now that she's carrying fights on the second game, she needs to be in this area. They might not touch her at all. I don't think that they're going to touch her, but if anything, they did mention that she was on the chopping block for receiving a tune down, so keep that in mind. We may see that soon. Let's quickly move on to the supports because the DPS is the longer list. Anna might, and this is very solid, might get a tune-up, but I think she's in a good spot right now as far as team playability because Kiriko is on a similar level where she's getting value. According to the dev blog, if I'm comparing them right, she's got about just as much equal value with Kiriko, but I think that she might need a tune-up at some point. What they would tune up, I have no idea, but I don't see her really having... I don't really see her having a lot to really do with anything. Balancing-wise. Baptiste! So I don't really hate the character, but I am a little mad that he out-damages a DPS hero. More on that when I hit the actual hero in question. He's not in a bad spot. He's not annoying to take care of, but he is getting a lot of value in the team fights by having a lot of damage output. He might receive a tune down. They did increase it because they felt that he was being held back, so they gave him a buff so that he could kind of even the playing field a little bit, but I think that they overshot their target with the overall balance change. So, hit or miss, we'll figure that out. Brigitte, she's actually not that bad. Ever since her stun was taken away, she's actually still pretty easy to take care of, roughly. You just have to know how to play around her, and she's not that bad. She does give a lot of healing value, though. If anything, she might be tuned down. Might receive a nerf. I don't really see her getting a nerf. But I do see her essentially being tuned in some way. More on the nerf side than the buff side, but, you know, let that be what it is. Exactly, baby. She's watching her show. I'm just trying to entertain her. Kiriko. I'm putting her on the chopping block for nerf, because she is definitely a very strong healer and has... Now, here's the thing that I don't actually know about her abilities in particular as far as, like, cooldowns, actual stats or anything, so I'm not one... I wasn't able to play her. I don't have her unlocked. I have no way of testing that. Other than maybe the practice range, but I have no interest in playing support right now. This is personally me. I do see her on the nerfing block, and in particular, the one that... I forgot the name of the ability that teleports her to the side of a fellow player. As far as I know, there is no range limit. I would think that a good way to balance her out without taking away from her playability would to put a distance limit of about 30 meters. That way she just can't teleport from, say, spawn to the character. But maybe there already is a limit. I don't know. If there is a limit, then fine. Leave it as being. They might shrink. I would suggest tune down the range limit that she has so that she just can't get free value for basically teleporting across half the map. But other than that, I think she's pretty good. She's not that hard to fight. She's actually pretty decently balanced. If anything, they're going to just nerf one of her abilities or two. But she's not a high damaging character. She's not a very oppressive character. She's pretty decent. If anything, it's just hard to keep track of her, but that's really about it. Lucio. So he's been getting a lot of value too. So I think if anything, they're going to put him on the nerfing block. Not really nerfing block, a tune down block, excuse me. I don't really have a lot, because he's not that hard to fight. He really isn't, like, I haven't had any trouble with him to a major extent. Like, there's good Lucios, there's bad Lucios, but I haven't really seen him enough or had enough problems to actually dictate whether or not he deserves enough a buff or a nerf. He just might not even be on the chopping block at all. He wasn't even mentioned. But they are foreseeing that he is going to be a very major player alongside Baptiste and Kiriko now that they're all in competitive on the pro scene. So there actually may be potential for him to be nerfed, but I don't know. So I don't know where to put him, but I would lean him more towards a nerf area, but again, more tuned down than a nerf. Mercy! Okay, let me be clear about Mercy. The thing I'm more annoyed about with her is that nobody wants to target her, and she's bringing insane value. Now, she is okay to bring that value. She is literally one of the only few heroes that can probably bring singular healing into this kind of a level. And she can res. She may need a tune down, but I don't see her being touched because she's not per se oppressive, it's just your team doesn't work together. So that's kind of an issue with me, but let it be what it be. Moira. She's also potentially powerful and may need a tune down, but I actually see her more likely getting untouched. So not really much to talk about. She's not that hard to take care of. I've seen her go down plenty in team fights, and her value is kind of iffy. You just have to really... it depends on what rank you're in. I haven't seen enough of her to actually come up with a solid opinion, so I can't really say. Lastly is Zenyatta, and let me just be honest with this one. Zenyatta, he's not overpowered. He can be killed pretty quickly. Is he weak? No. Is he strong? No. He's pretty well balanced. And quite honestly, I don't think he needs to be touched, but if they were to lean him anywhere, I'd see him more getting a buff than anything else, but I don't know. I don't know. Let's move on to the damage heroes. Ashe. She's been a very strong must-pick, supposedly, in the Overwatch League, coupling alongside Sojourn, Genji, and Tracer. She's been getting a lot of value, very good value for that matter of fact, and she is a very strong must-pick. If anything, she might just get a tune, maybe like a mix between a tune down and a tune up. I don't really see her having to, like, she's meant to be strong on a singular headshot, so that's fine. But I don't really see her having too much value or too little value, so I think that she's fine where she is. McCree. He lost a lot of value when it came to losing his flashbang. Honestly, I think that they're going to tune him up if they're going to do anything to him, but he also might be on the leave alone spectrum. He might actually be getting more value than I'm thinking, but you don't see him in pro play a lot. But he still has good damage output, so if you know how to use him, I've seen pros pop off with him, so if anything, he might get a tune up as compared to a tune down, but I think they'll leave him alone as well. Echo. Okay, let me just be clear. I don't like Echo, but not as much as Wrecking Ball. Her issue is that she's got too many to get out of jail free cards, but they've ever since kind of like dealt with that in Overwatch 1, and it kind of carried over to Overwatch 2 with a different play style, so she hasn't been too problematic. If anything, I think she's going to get a tune-up as well, but I really hope that they don't. I really hope that they don't, and that's being blatantly honest. Like, I don't want to see her get up in the top tiers again, as she is just annoying to deal with. Genji, he's definitely going to get a nerf. I am sorry, but he is definitely going to get a nerf. If it's not a weak nerf, it's going to be a very strong tune down. And it's not even that he's a problem. He's very easy to incapacitate when you face off against a pretty average Genji. But the thing is that for some stupid reason, it's very hard to keep up with him in this new system. So if anything, they're going to tune him down. And they did mention in the developer update that if they're going to actually do any tune down relating to Genji, it might be on the DPS passive abilities that they've given. So they might tune that, and it will correlate to the rest of the DPS roster, but they wouldn't touch him directly. I really hope that they just touch him directly, honestly. Like, just don't mess with anybody else. Stop mixing the pot. Stop making it inconsistent for DPS heroes, and just go to the source, which is Genji. Fix him, nerf him if you need to. I don't think he needs a heavy nerf. I think he just needs a tune down of some sort to kind of make him less stupid to play against. It's very hard to actually give this an accurate description. Honestly, the problem is just keeping up with him. So if they do decide to go with the balance patch of the passive for DPS heroes, there's not really much that we can do, but if that's the case, hopefully it makes them a little easier to deal with. Going to Hanzo. So Hanzo, I haven't had him much problems, although he's been a very strong pick in some of the matches. I'm sure I was running into a higher ranked player when that instance happened, but I don't know for sure, so I'm going to keep my mouth shut and not make false claims that I don't know anything about. I honestly think Hanzo is not in a bad spot. He's not strong, but he's not weak. He's definitely a very good must pick if you're looking for value, and if you know how to play him and you know how to aim, he will be a very strong pick. But, you know, give or take, I think that if anything, he's going to get a tune-up, but I think they'll leave him alone, most likely. Junkrat, same difference. I think that they're just going to leave him alone. There's really not much point to touching him. He does a decent amount of damage. He's very easy to counter when you have that. If anything, the only thing that I could think of might have to do with the fact of his trip mine. They might have to narrow that down a little bit on a nerf or a tune down, but I don't really think he needs to be touched. He's in a good spot. Mei is definitely in need of a tune-up / buff. She's not very oppressive to play against. I never really feel a sense of urgency when playing against her, and that's coming from someone who doesn't want to fight her face-to-face. But at the same time, even when she's face-to-face, she doesn't feel that dangerous. Yes, her icicles are still pretty dangerous, but even though there's a sense of, like, urgency to, you know, defeat her as quick as possible, it's not as much as other heroes. She definitely is going to be in need of a buff / tune-up, so I think that they'll lean more towards that. Going to Pharah. She's not that hard to counter. If anything, she might need a tune down, but the only issue that I've been having mainly is that people don't want to actually aim for her. A lot of people seem to forget that she exists, and as a result, she gets value. So that's more of a team-oriented issue versus an actual hero power issue. I think she's fine. I don't think she needs to be touched, and I think that she's in a good spot. Seeing that people can get value from her, it shows a lot. Reaper. So Reaper's in a very strong spot. If anything, he might get a tune down, but he's in a very good spot too. He's getting a lot of value, and he is a very good counter pick for a couple of other heroes. I've won a few matches, surprisingly, with him where I was not gaining value with my others. And quite honestly, I think it's fine. I think he's fine. There's really just not much to cover with him. He's a short-ranged hero that I think that they narrowed his firing spread from like an 8 to like a 7, so his bullet spread is now more tight. Gives him a little bit more phantom range on console, but I haven't seen that to be an issue. It's very easy to counter him still, and I've actually been able to take him on close-up team fights with Soldier. Something I wasn't able to do in Overwatch 1, but now I'm doing like really good in Overwatch 2. Heck if I know. Sojourn, definitely on the nerf / tune down. It's not that she's oppressive and not overpowered. She's definitely not overpowered. She definitely does need to have her abilities adjusted, though. She is still a very strong pick, and she is a must-pick within the Overwatch League scene for how powerful she is. There's a couple of suggestions that I saw on social media that I actually agree with, and one of them was to basically adjust the recharge time with her railgun, how much energy is gathered for whenever she hits a target, and the decay rate needs to be increased. It wouldn't touch the output that she puts out, but it would, affect like how quickly you have to maneuver, so it requires a high skill ceiling and a high value as a result, rather than giving her a average skill ceiling where anybody can really hit that and giving her high value. High skill, high value. I agree with that. I actually do agree with that. I want to save Soldier for last because he's my hero, but we're going to talk about Sombra. Sombra definitely needs to have a nerf. It's not even that her damage output is not the thing. Her invisibility, her kit is fine. The thing that is not fine is her hacking ability. Honestly, they need to shorten the window, and this is my opinion, by the way, grain of salt. They need to shorten her window of hackability because they initially gave her like 1 second of taking away your ability to do anything. But they mentioned in the dev update that they wanted to still give the people who were hacked a chance that if they were a better skilled individual that was hacked, they would be able to have a fighting chance and be able to turn the fight around. That it wouldn't just give Sombra a free kill for just simply clicking one button and basically disabling the hero. They wanted to give the target a fighting chance, and I think by reducing that window back to about 1 second, it basically means that you're able to do more and survive better. Also, for the fact that she stays invisible, while she can hack, so she could essentially just hack and run away, hack and run away, hack and run away. I haven't run into that issue, but the issue that I have been running into is that the damage increase needs to definitely be shortened. I think it's like 8 seconds. They need to lower that to 5. Most times she kills me in 3. And that's saying a lot that I've been trying to outduel her with a Soldier 76 with a healing station. More on him in a second. And he's still losing. And even though I'm hitting my shots, she's just out-damaging the heals that I get anyway, even with a healer, by the way. So, if anything, they just need to either lower the amount of damage output that is given when that target is hacked, or they need to reduce the windows of both the hack attempt as well as the hack time, so that way there's more survivability. And that's just personal opinion, but again, grain of salt. I don't know how to fix her proper, but Symmetra. So, along with Torbjorn, she's not really in a spot that needs buffs or nerfs, according to Blizzard, but she is a counter to Genji, which may be why her win rate is kind of fluffed. If anything, they might tune her up. I really hope they don't touch her, because she's semi-annoying to deal with from time to time. It's more along the unpredictability that is kind of more annoying, but that's kind of her shtick. She needs to be unpredictable to gain value, but it's kind of annoying to deal with. If anything, they may buff her. I really hope that they don't, but I hope they just leave her alone. Tracer. She is also one of the big must-picks for right now in the Overwatch League, and it's essentially for the same reason that she was picked in Overwatch League way long ago. High skill, like, I want to say average. She's definitely a high skill too. I can't speak. She's definitely a hero that requires a little skill, because if you don't manage your abilities right, you're just basically giving them a free 150 HP punching bag. She's just going to die. She's a glass cannon. That was the reason that Overwatch League pros were able to use her and get a lot of value, is because they know how to play her on a fundamental level, manage her abilities right, get in and out, kill a target, blah, blah, blah. Honestly, if anything, she may get a nerf, but I don't see her being touched either. She's not in a bad spot, but she's definitely a huge must-pick, and definitely a hard target to pick off in this game with the passive. So when they do the Genji balance, if they decide to do target the passive, it may nerf her as well. We'll have to see. Last but not least, we got Widowmaker. Supposedly, she's an S-tier hero according to a lot of different players. She's very strong right now. I don't know about that. It depends on the rank you're at and the skill ceiling of your fellow player / enemy team. It's kind of weird. She's definitely not weak, and it's definitely kind of different to see her in this kind of... You really need to have the right circumstances to get the best power out of her. She's definitely a good competitive character to Ashe, but Sojourn's been kind of a problematic thing and a thorn in her side. Kind of a good replacement. I haven't seen the pros play her a lot. It's iffy. I don't think that she's going to be touched. I think they're going to leave her alone. If anything, they may nerf or tune her down. I can't say for sure. Last but not least, the piece de resistance, the one that I'm most passionate about, Soldier 76. I love this character with like all my heart, soul, mind here, and he's like my favorite overall character to play. Here's the thing, they nerfed him to the ground. He needs buffs. At this point, because they nerfed him so far, I said in previous videos that all he needed was a quality of life change, like a tune-up and tune-down in appropriate areas. I still stand by that video, and I'll put a link to it down below, of my ideas. And it's not that they need to incorporate all of them, but they do need to incorporate something, and he can get an increase of value without touching his actual power output. Exactly, Sadie. But they nerfed him the last time round, and as I was mentioning in Baptiste's area, they were essentially... they essentially said that they buffed Baptiste to the point he's doing more damage output than Soldier. And my friend disagrees with that, but I've seen the numbers. I've seen what a Baptiste can do. Not only can Baptiste out-heal Soldier, but he could out-damage him. And so he has more inherent value as a support, and basically a third DPS than Soldier could ever offer. And honestly, at this point, because of the nerfs, he does need to be buffed. Not much. He doesn't need like a major buff to like, oh, make him more powerful. Honestly, I'd be happy with a sprint speed, refer him back to the Overwatch 1 levels and give him a 60%, because that's literally the purpose of his sprint, was to give him vertical mobility where others, or horizontal mobility. Need help? Okay. give him horizontal mobility where other heroes didn't have it, so the speed buff should never have been nerfed in the first place. His healing station never should have been nerfed in the first place, because it wasn't doing much in the first place. Why did you make it more useless? The Helix rockets are fine. Honestly, I could have gone with their experimental patch. His primary fire just needs to stop going to like minimal levels. Like, he needs to have that value, and he's not an oppressive hero. He's a very situational oppressive hero. If you catch him in the right circumstance, he can be very oppressive, but you have to be in the right positioning, and if you do not have positioning, you do not have value. I've been learning that, and quite honestly, I'm surprised that nobody's been calling this out. But they need to revert his damage back. They need to give him a uniqueness, because he's now the generic, like, measurement of Sojourn, and that's kind of a problem. Why? He's his own name and his own hero. Alright, I'm gonna stop ranting on him. Honestly, he needs buffs. Buffs. Like, flat out buffs. They're gonna probably nerf him, though, knowing my luck, because, you know, they don't care about Soldier and they honestly hate him. It'd be less painful for them to just remove him from the game like they did Bastion. And it would probably save us all, like, a heartache of, like, what are you doing with him? Buff him. Buff him now. And that's pretty much all to my entire video. And that's, again, I'm going to quickly note that is just my opinion here. I'm not really saying that they need to. I'm saying they need to because I just want to throw my opinion out here. But let me know your thoughts down below. Give it a discussion. And, yeah, I think that's pretty much all there is to it. Let me know your opinions down below. Give it a discussion. What do you guys think that should happen to most of these heroes? What do you think is going to happen to everybody that I mentioned? And what do you think that this entire balance patch is going to look like? Do you think it's going to definitely improve the quality of the game? Do you think they're going to fix comp before they put out the patch on the 25th? Do you think that Blizzard's actually listening to us when it comes to that? So just, again, let me know your thoughts down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.